All right, this is Scott Martinez. I'm on Compel's business development team. We're talking with Arthur Katz here of Knockout Pest Control. He's going to talk about some of the ways Compel has helped grow his business. So why don't you introduce yourself, Arthur? Thanks for being here. Talk a little bit about your business, how long you've worked at your company, what you guys do, things like that.
Thank you. So Knockout is a regional pest management company. We service all of Nassau, Suffolk, 5 boroughs, Westchester, and Rockland. We are a structural pest control company, which means we provide pest management services for every kind of structure. So we don't do trees and lawns and farms and things like that, but we do homes, warehouses, apartment buildings, office buildings, industrial buildings, etc. We are a green company. We have met the national criteria for being green. We find that not all customers necessarily want green, but they like green when they hire a company. We are very much geared to customer service to make sure that we provide our services to the customers when they want it. So we're mean on pests. We're very good at what we do. We're lean on the wallet, and we're green for the environment and homes and businesses.
Cool. Thank you. And are you the CEO of?
I founded the company in 1975. We are, I think, at this point, the largest family-owned pest management company, certainly on Long Island and maybe New York.
Wow. How many years of CEO experience do you have?
Since 1975, when I started Knockout, I started as the owner with a partner. Partner shortly left thereafter, and it's been my business since then.
Awesome. What do you love about your job?
So what I really love about my job is the ability to fund the other part of me, which is doing philanthropy and helping the community in a variety of ways, from soup kitchens to educational. I'm on the boards of Jewish day schools. I'm on the board of the Holocaust Museum in Glen Cove.
Awesome.
And I support many of the not-for-profits that we service, Family and Children's Services and UCP Suffolk and Catholic Charities. There are many charities that we do provide service, and we like to give back to most of them, that, or if not all of them, that we service.
That's awesome. So before Compel, how did you get advice and connect with peers?
So really, to understand Compel is to understand that we're not a networking group. Some people say, well, I'm going to join another group and I'm going to get business and get leads. Although you may get business by meeting many people that are members of your group or other groups, the main purpose of Compel is to help me grow as a CEO. And the obvious question is, well, why did I join? What particular issue or problem did I have that I needed solved? And there are many people that do come in. They're having an issue with family members in a business, or they have a CFO or a warehouse manager that they don't know what to do with. And that is a reason to join, but that's short-sighted. Pretty much because of my participation in the Compel model, which includes speakers that come and give workshops. These are keynote speakers who are experts in different fields, and they give us a workshop for 4 hours. And the sharing of information, the other half is the sharing of information of CEOs. It's what you don't know, what questions you don't know how to ask or don't even know to ask, that come up in these meetings and discussions that help you grow your business. There could be recently a lot of issues with COVID and how to navigate the COVID issues. But going back, and I've been a member of Compel for over 20 years.
Right.
And as I have matured in business, and as my business has matured, my issues have changed. In the early days, one of the first speakers we ever had is, what's the first most important job of a CEO? and that is to have a succession plan. How do you get out of the business? How do you position your business for sale? And I'm in business now for 46 years. I'm still not ready to sell, but my company right now is positioned to sell. If I had a catastrophic event where I could no longer work, all my management team has to do is throw a switch and we go on autopilot, and then they decide whether to sell, to keep, and the family gets involved in those conversations. So we're positioned to sell now. But in order to get here, there's a lot of things that you have to prepare for. In the early days, we want to maximize our profits. We talked about cash balance plans and financial tools to help us manage our business so that we minimize taxes legally, maximize the return on investment, so that my next generation and the next generation after that has been taken care of through good financial planning. And Compel brings all that to the table.
So how did you, that's incredible, huge scope. How did you figure out this stuff before joining Compel?
You don't. You just don't. You know, many of your accountants and attorneys all have their own interest at heart. And every time you'd ask them for advice, the advice would be, well, let me first say this and give you a disclaimer. And they may not always tell you everything that you might want to know because they don't want to offend you and lose a client. One of the real benefits of Compel is when I sit around the table with 18 CEOs, they have no vested interest in me other than helping me as a friend. And I remember maybe 10 years ago, I had a relative working for me, a nephew, and the nephew wanted a piece of the company. And at that point, it goes back maybe 20 years, I wasn't prepared to give this particular person a piece of the business, although he wanted it. And I started talking to that employee, that relative, and in my Compel group, I remember so clearly one of the members looked me in the face and says, "You're full of it." He said something else, but he said, "You're full of it. You're not going to do the deal. You're not going to give up your business. You're not ready to do it. Why don't you just tell them and tell them the truth?" So there's accountability. When you're in the Compel room, they're holding your feet to the fire. They're cutting through your emotions, and they're telling you not necessarily what you want to hear, but they're telling you what you should know.
Interesting. And that's just, you can't get that level of accountability and holding your feet to the fire and really telling you the truth. You can't, it's really hard to do that outside of a group like Compel.
Yeah. Now there are some people who will say, well, I happen to have a wonderful wife and she has a business head and I can talk to her. But there are people who just say, my wife doesn't understand this. I can't talk to her. Yeah. Even my key employees, my CFO, my financial office, I can't tell them because I don't want to look diminished or like I don't know anything or looking weak. So even your key report tos and your closest relatives, sometimes you don't have the confidence or the emotional stability to talk with them, where you can do that in the Compel group. Because once you walk out of that meeting, you're not looking at them for another month. Although when issues come up of a personal nature, I had recently a family member who wasn't well, medical issues, and I was getting phone calls and emails from Compel members just to support me, say, how you doing? What do you need? If you need something, let me know. So you're building a family network of arm distance people who care but are at an arm distance so they can really help you.
Which is interesting because it's a different kind of bond than just here's a networking group. Because when you go into that room together, you're not just let's network, it's we're going to be honest with each other about what's really going on with you in your business, and that creates a different kind of bond.
A CEO is not just a guy who sits behind a desk or manages other people. You have emotions. It's a balance of life. A lot of CEOs are 8 personalities, work 24/7, and Compel. And we play golf. We learn how to get out of the office And of course, when I'm out of the office, smoking a cigar or hitting some golf balls, I'm still talking business. But you get that relaxation, you get out of the office, and you do have a life other than 24/7 office.
Yeah. So what were your main struggles of being a CEO?
Okay, I'm stumped. My main,
But before being well, you've been in Compel for 20 years, but as a CEO, what were some of your main challenges? What came up?
I think personally, in the beginning, when I was first starting the business, I had a lot of trouble understanding why a technician was very happy being a technician, doing their job 9 to 5, and had no interest in becoming a manager or a supervisor, taking responsibility. I had to learn that Jim Collins and Good to Great taught us this, and he was a great book that we studied in Compel, and that is that everyone has their own benefits. They belong on the right seat on the bus, and don't try to put someone someplace where they're going to fail. Make sure you get to know your people and put them in the right place, so they'll be happy and they'll be the best benefit to your company.
What else were some of the challenges you faced as a CEO? You talked about family members, cash balances. Talk me through some of the other big struggles, recurring struggles.
Well, in the early days, it was cash flow. Every company struggles in the beginning. Well, not every, but most companies struggle in the very beginning. And it took us a few years till we understand that cash is king. And whatever you do, make sure you have a rainy day fund. And today we buy cars for cash, avoiding interest rates, and make sure we get the max of interest with our parked cash. Be ready for the opportunity, because opportunities, when they come, you want to have the cash available or the credit line available to make sure that you can take advantage. During COVID and the supply chain situation, we have products that we use like rat bait stations. So we went out and bought pallets of them, even though we don't need pallets today. We bought them to make sure that we had the supply. And then the bonus was we bought it before the prices went up. So we had a win-win. And now we have whatever we need. And I don't have to worry about shipments coming in from places where they make this stuff. We have it all in the warehouse.
So you were able to avoid, so you're able to avoid a lot of those challenges by, I'm guessing, by talking to your group and thinking through how to be a little bit proactive.
Yeah, sure.
Any other big struggles?
Things. No.
Big question, but
yeah, no, we seem to be in front of everything. Being in Compel, you go to a meeting, you hear someone talk about a problem that they might have with a CFO, or they have a problem with a bank, or they have a problem with an insurance company, like EPLI insurance. Many people never heard of EPLI, employee liabilities insurance. Very inexpensive insurance. And we heard stories of a couple of people who did not have the insurance, had claims against them of some kind of an employee infraction. And both companies ultimately won because they weren't in error. So employees try to take advantage of something, but it cost them $50,000 or $60,000 in legal defense fees to win. With EPLI insurance, certainly you should be respectful and treat employees correctly and not have to get into that position. But it's good to have EPLI insurance. So for years, we've had EPLI insurance, and I've heard stories of other people since then who didn't, and they should have. So that's one little story of something I never even thought about, never learned about. No one asked me to buy it, but it was important that I did.
And you learned about that through your group. Someone talked about this thing. It's a really right.
We talked about it in one of the early meetings. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Tell me a specific story of a specific business problem that you brought to your group, and that your group helped you solve it. Start with the problem. What was the problem, and what were the stakes of the problem? So
the issue was making sure I don't lose my key employee, the guy who who's now a partner and literally runs the company. we were struggling with how do you do that? How do you reward somebody and not give your business away? And for some people, this just would not be the right move the way I did it. And that was, I actually gifted him stock. Some companies might do that with phantom stock and achieve the same thing. But I chose not to do that. The way I sold him on it, and he didn't want it. He said, your business, don't do this. And he was giving me a lot of pushback. And what I said was, what happens if something happens to you? By doing the stock transfer, if you have a catastrophic tragedy event, excuse me, I can take care of your family. They will have a check every month. They'll be getting a check. When we sell the company, they're going to get a bonus. If and when we sell the company, at some point that will happen. So I sold him on it by not taking care of him, but taking care of his family. And
that's awesome.
And the group helped me work that through.
So take me back to that room when you actually explained this challenge initially. You say, hey, I have this really key employee. I want to keep him. What do I do? What did your group initially say when you explained the problem?
Well, we have a method, and that is when an issue is put on the table, the next process is that people ask me questions to really clearly understand, to make sure that I have articulated what the issue is, and the thing that's giving me pain is not something that's hidden, something other than what's really on the table. And because of the vast experience in the room, and I'm probably one of the smallest volume companies in the group. There are tremendous Long Island companies in the group with multi-million-dollar companies. But more importantly, everybody has relationships and they have friends, and they have experiences, and they will be able to bring that wealth of knowledge and experience and said, well, this situation came up with somebody, this is how they handled it. And then after we have a discussion of possible solutions, then I can make my own choice and see what's best for me.
So you had people, that makes a lot of sense. So you brought this wealth of knowledge came together, asked you some questions. What did you guys realize was the root problem? Like why did they direct you to this solution in particular?
Well, in my case, the problem was it's just the way I stated it. I want to make sure I have a good succession plan. I don't want him running away. Although he could burn me. He could burn me and say, this was great, I'm leaving, but I still own 5% of your company. Yeah. But he has integrity.
So they talked you through that. They presented some alternatives.
Yes.
And then, that basically gave you the confidence to do something risky like that, because you bounced it off everyone. They thoroughly understood the situation, and you came up with a clean solution.
Yeah, correct.
What was the result of implementing the advice? Like, what happened afterwards? Where's he at today?
I feel as though my relationship with my number one is much closer, not only with him, but with his family. There's a warmth, more of a warmth. The fact that they know that I've done what's right for them, and not necessarily 100% for me. It was a mutually beneficial activity.
Right.
And they really appreciate it.
Awesome. Why did you join Compel way back in the day?
Accident. I had a relative in the business. We became partners. We were partners for 12 months. After the first 3 months, the partnership didn't work out. So wound up that I stayed and he left. It was a pure accident.
Pure accident. Oh no, that you joined Compel?
That I went into this business.
I'm saying, how did you join Compel?
I apologize for that.
All good.
Okay. So actually, Compel has a history. It used to be something else. And there was a friend of mine in another group, in this other entity. And we were having dinner, and he was telling me about this model, and said, you got to come down and try it out. And I was introduced to a Compel facilitator, and I tried it and I liked it. So it was a member referral.
Got it. What made Compel a good fit for you?
There are competitors to Compel in some manner or form, but what makes it really work for me is the facilitator. My facilitator is Steve Ramarini, and we've worked together for over 20 years. So, and I say that to my customers as well. You know, there are 100 pest control companies out there. What makes us different? And that's the deliverables. And we deliver what we can deliver in terms of quality, on-time service, customer service makes us different than our competitors.
Yeah.
And it's the people of Compel that make them different.
Got it. What would you say are the 3 biggest benefits you've experienced working with Compel?
The 3 biggest benefits of Compel, it's helped me, 1, grow my business. 2, it's helped me balance my life. And it's helped me understand business. Again, in business, there are questions, you don't even know what questions to ask, no less fix things, but they help me understand what are the right questions to ask, so I do get the right answers.
Right. How would you rate your experience with Compel?
10 out of 10.
Why?
Why do I rate Compel 10 out of 10? Because on a continuing, ongoing basis, it helps me understand myself and my business for continued growth.
Continued growth. Love it. What are some of the ways you've benefited from being a member with Compel? You talked a little bit about some of the key big benefits. Are there any other benefits to being a member, not just the group?
Well, the other benefits I mentioned earlier are the speakers that they bring to the table.
Right.
They have economists that present to us on a periodic basis who really, in an entertaining way, bring the economy into focus. We have one member of our group that listened to this economist a few years ago, where he was predicting a downturn in the economy. And he says, even if you don't need money, borrow it now, because it's going to be hard to borrow in a couple of years. And this one member went out, he was in the food business, had a warehouse, went out and bought another warehouse twice the size. And by the time the deal went through, the financing went through, he found the property and he moved into the property. He bought, because of a downturn in the economy, he bought 3 or 4 competitors and filled his warehouse up. So some people take action and it works.
Right.
And it takes self-fortitude to do things like that and trust in the economist. But they've been pretty accurate for the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years we've been following them.
Wow. How is Compel better than other peer groups you've tried? Or if you've tried other peer groups?
I have not tried others. Okay. I would go back to the personnel, the people that you work with.
Yeah, Steve. What's been the most helpful part of Compel and why?
There are many values. The one-to-one meetings are valuable. The speakers are valuable. The sharing of information with other companies is valuable. But probably what's most important is listening to the issues that other companies are having, because it really doesn't matter what your widgets are, what business you're in. Every company is going to have the same issues, either now or you're going to have them. And by learning to avoid those issues later, by not either avoid them or learning, identifying the issue or being able to deal with the issue, because you didn't have the experience, but you know people that have had it and you've learned from that. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Did you have any doubts before joining Compel? And what surprised you or made you the happiest about it?
I had no expectations when I joined, so I had no doubts. But once we did get into it, it was rewarding.
What surprised you the most or made you the happiest about it?
What made me the happiest? We're talking about 20 years.
A lot of stuff. 20 years. 20 years is a lot.
It's the continuity. It's the continuing. It's like going to the Wharton School or Harvard Business School on a regular basis. It's that level of education.
In your opinion, what word best describes Compel?
What one word describes Compel? Okay, one word. You're never too old to learn. If you come into Compel with the attitude, I'm going to come in and I'm going to teach you. I know everything. Look how successful I am. I wouldn't be this successful if I wasn't brilliant. Well, you really don't belong in the group. If you come in saying, I'm a smart guy, I can learn, I've made mistakes, I'll make more mistakes. Let's try to minimize them by learning from other people's mistakes and opportunities.
Got it.
Come with a positive attitude.
I like it. Would you recommend Compel to others, and why?
Not only would I, but I do. I'm constantly an advocate to bring people into the group that I feel who would benefit from it. I have two potential members right now who I've been talking to come in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why would you recommend Compel to others?
This one case is a young man whose uncle runs his 4 branches of a franchise in a service business, and he's heir apparent. So it'll be difficult for him to go to his uncle and say, I really don't know anything about this, that, or the other thing, or go to his subordinates and say, I don't know anything about financial stuff. If he joins Compel, he'll be able to have his own team advising him and helping him transition into a new role. That's one example.
That's awesome. What would you tell someone who's considering joining Compel?
Well, what I have told people is that I believe it's good for you, and I suggest you give it a trial run, try it for 3 or 4 months. And if you're not getting value out of it, leave. And if you are getting value of it, I don't have to tell you what to do.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I strongly recommend Compel to anybody.
Okay.
To anybody has doubts about who they are, where they're going, anyone who's transitioning family into the business. I strongly am an advocate for Compel.
Actually, last question, I did just think of this. In your industry, have there been some recent challenges that Compel has helped you address? And if so, tell me about them.
Not directly, but indirectly. So in our industry, 3 of my biggest competitors have sold in the last year.
Wow.
And international and international companies. And I'm being solicited on a regular basis. I'm not ready to sell, but someday I will be. And because of the mergers and the growth and the acquisitions done in Compel over the years, I have a pretty good blueprint as when the time comes, how we will proceed. So that, if I learn nothing else from Compel in all the years I've been there, this will be the most important thing that Compel has given to me is how to get out.
Right.
But I'm not ready.
Right. But you know that, and it's not an unknown thing. You've seen it happen to so many people. Like it's not scary. You're in control of that process.
Oh, completely in control.
Wow.
And my number one is my partner's. He understands it completely.
Wow.
My family members are all up. Everyone knows what the plan is.
Wow.
Just not ready.
That's special. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Arthur, thank you for sharing. Really appreciate your time. That's it. Thank you very much.